Hello, friends. Continuing our episodes for the current session on leadership. Today, I talk about how important and how to go about delegating to others. Because the most effective leaders are the ones who delegate wisely. I remember reading somewhere, and it has really stuck in my mind, is that if you want to do small things, you do it yourself. But then there's a limit. You have only those 24 hours in a day, even if you don't sleep. And there's only so much you can do in 24 hours. But if you want to do great things, if you want to do things that will create a substantial impact, you need to learn to delegate. And I think this was said by an author known as John Maxwell. And this has really stuck in my mind. And I have been practicing this for a very, very long time. I think it is since I had systems to get feedback, to get reports, to know that things are moving well, but you need to learn to delegate. What I have found over the years is that in nearly every single case of leadership that I have done, leadership mentorship that I have done, to get leaders ready for their role or to coach potential leaders who will be leaders of the future. There are normally four standard objections. They are very, very standard. And after some time, I started guessing what was coming my way. The first and foremost one was that the outcome is questionable. That leader is not sure he will get the right outcome. But then that really reflects on him because he has not trained this team well. The second excuse that I have constantly received as feedback is that, oh, it takes too much time to assign and to delegate and to explain and to train them if they don't know it. I'd probably be able to do it faster. We're coming to that in some time, why that fallacy doesn't work. Very often, correlation with the first one, I don't have the right person to do it. Again, that means you as a leader have failed because you've not trained your team to do the tasks that are required. And this one is something that really pinches when someone says that they think their team may not be interested in doing that task, that job that you want to give them, to delegate to them. This speaks so badly of the leader that he has got a team that is not in sync with what the organization or he requires. So these are the standard excuses I've come about. And let me tell you, they're all total crap, bullshit. Assuming that even one or all of this are true to whatever extent, if you do not learn to delegate, if you do not learn to resolve the excuses that we have just mentioned, what is going to happen is that you are only going to end up doing small things, as John Maxwell said. You will 100%, without an iota of doubt, burn yourself out. And that, if a leader burns himself out only because he doesn't know how to delegate, you can well imagine how expensive that proposal or that idea is for the organization, as well as for the leader himself, because a burnt out person can't function. And I think one of the worst things is that when you do this, when you don't delegate and you give excuses like, I'm not sure I have the right person and blah, 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 you are sending a message across to the team that you do not trust them to do the work that is entrusted to them. So the team is going to blame you because they know they can do it, or they know that you have not trained them enough, and that is why you are not giving it. So that trust deficit starts arising. And at the end of the day, if this is the attitude you take and you're just going to keep doing it yourself, not only will you do small things, but your team will never learn. And therefore, they are never going to be able to assist you and the organization to do bigger things, as an organization should be at the end of the day. Besides change, the only thing that you should make constant is growth. So your team will not learn, and therefore you will never ever have the right person. So where does delegation start? I think the first thing that delegation requires is a change in the mindset of the leader. Basically, inherently, we are all doers, every single one of us. We have a task and we perform it. We do what is required of us. So the change in mindset comes from becoming a doer, from being a doer to becoming a leader. And a leader has to realize that as a doer, there is only so much that he can do. But that as a leader, and if done rightly, if he's an effective leader, he's going to become a highly successful, result-oriented, delivering more than what is normally expected. And why is this? It's for the simple reason that a doer in a certain period of time can do, say, X amount of work. Now, if the leader is going to do it all and going to remain a doer, not become an efficient leader or a manager, he is going to do, maybe he's better than the others, he'll do maybe 20% over and above X. But if that leader, assuming he has a team that is not trained well, spends that time to not do the X, but to train his team, say maybe 20 people, 30 people, or even just 2 people, to do that work, he is going to get anything from 2x to as many people as he has as an output. So where he used to end up doing just X amount of work, or X plus 20%, as I said, he is going to end up getting more, maybe 20x, maybe 100x, depending on how his team is and how well they get trained and how efficient the team is, of course, at the end of the day. So making that mindset from doer to a leader to a manager is very important. So now once you make the mindset, it doesn't end there. You have to accept the fact that you will have to let go of control. You have to give them the free reins to do the task that you are delegating to them. What you need to learn is to identify the task that you want to and can and should delegate. And normally these are the tasks that anyone can do very easily. And to use a cliched saying which you hear very often, don't do things that are below your pay grade. You are a leader. You've been made a manager. You're not supposed to do those tasks. You're supposed to get them done. And in a lot of cases, what you should delegate is things, tasks that require a very specialized knowledge, which you don't have. And therefore, you need to delegate those, or which require a substantial experience. Now, these are the tasks that you should definitely delegate. So, to shift from being a doer to a leader, you need to learn how to delegate the right task to the right person. Because if you delegate the task to the wrong person, he or she may probably botch it up, which sets you back and not help you to go ahead. And when you delegate, tell them the what, explain the how, but don't do it for them. Guide them, encourage them, and you have to guide them, encourage them, and leave them, let them fly, so that they start taking decisions. They start taking the call when required, independently and confidently. Delegate, as I said, tasks, not solutions. Don't tell them how in detail to do it. Tell them what you want done. Tell them what is the result that you want. Tell them, guide them on how. But at the end of the day, give them the freedom to tweak, to try something different. The how changes, but it could be more efficient. Or if they fail, they're going to learn, as will the rest of the team, because you will use that as an example of what not to do at the end of the day. And when you delegate, you're just delegating. Don't abdicate them. Be there for them. It's not that you've given a task and you forget about it and let them figure it out. No, you need to be there for them. And whenever delegating, because at the end of the day, it is your skin that's there in the game, you need to build a feedback and monitoring system. You need to be able to monitor whether they are doing things right or not. And you need to get a feedback, because otherwise, how is the monitoring going to work? You're not going to sit on the shop floor all the time and do it. So you need to develop a system for monitoring and getting feedback. When delegating, define very clearly, tell them what their responsibility is, what autonomy they have, because otherwise they might step bounds, which is going to irritate everybody, not only you, but maybe the team members also. So you need to define the responsibility and the autonomy that goes with the task that is delegated. You need to describe and define, not leave it to their imagination, the end result that you are looking for, so that they know what they're supposed to achieve. Ensure that they get all the required resources. As I said, you need to have a feedback and monitoring systems, and therefore you will need to define the checkpoints. You will need to define the milestones, and with each of this, you will have to define a time frame, saying they need to reach a certain milestone in a certain time, so that the entire project goes on schedule. Motivate them always. Keep motivating them even after delegating. And learn to tolerate risks and mistakes. As I said, give them the freedom to tweak the how, to think and try to employ new ways of doing it. Once you cultivate all of these habits, you are well set to delegate successfully and win. So, as I said, define the what, not the how. Delegate the how. Explain, guide them on the how if they require, but let them define the how. Measure fairly and regularly, because otherwise your skin, as I said, is in the game. You are the one who will lose out. Build a culture of open and honest debate. Only then are they going to tweak and find more efficient ways on how. to do the task. Invest and, in fact, promote experimentation, innovation, and naturally improvement. These things are valid only if they bring about it. And as I said, make sure they have the right resources. Recognize and appreciate achievements, even small ones. Be interested and curious on how the team is progressing. As I said, don't do it for them, but be there. Don't abdicate after giving the task. And when you are being curious, when you're seeing how they work, don't be judgmental. Be supportive, be helpful, but not judgmental. Invite participation and debate, because this is how the processes can improve. But at the same time, you need to be careful about a few things. Do not breathe down their necks and watch over their shoulders 24/7. Do not constantly give advice. Give advice when sought. Give advice when you see that it is necessary, otherwise it's going to go off track. Do not set up systems where you need to approve every decision that they make. Then the whole idea of delegating is lost to a large extent. And let not the feedback be a one-way street. You give the feedback, you get the feedback, and take the feedback positively. While delegating, we talk of tasks that you need to delegate, things that anybody can do, things that require special knowledge or experience. But there are certain things that as a leader you should never, ever delegate. And those are the core functions and responsibilities of your role. You delegate tasks to them. Let them have the responsibility to do the task. But you are not delegating your responsibility to them. Your responsibility remains your responsibility. Do not delegate the praise and disciplining of your team members. You need to praise them yourself. Team members praise them, great. That's a bonus, but you need to be there to appreciate and recognize their efforts. In the same way, if a team member is doing something that is against company culture, against the company philosophy, you are the one who should discipline them. In fact, a lot of times I see that all this is left to the HR manager. At a certain level, that's fine, but when it is serious, you need to step in. You cannot delegate team building and nurturing of the team. That is your task. It is your team. So you need to remember these things, not to delegate. Never delegate the decision-making on the mission, the vision, and the goals. And participation for the roadmap is good, but don't leave it just to them. Never leave to the team. Do not delegate on how and what should be the company culture, what should be the traditions that you want to establish in the company, and what should be the etiquette that is to be maintained at all times by each and every member who is working in the organization. In times of crisis management, get on hand. You can't delegate that. You need to be there. It's a crisis, for God's sake. Your team is going to be affected by it. Their morale is going to be affected by it. And especially in the case of startups, do not ever delegate fundraising and investor relationships with everybody. That, friends, is what I have to say about delegating, the art, what to do, what not to do, what tasks to delegate, what tasks not to delegate. Very important to be a successful and efficient leader. Have a good evening. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up again on Monday. Thank you.